mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremony, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and that has a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now, what do you think? Do you think I'm qualified?
I don't even know what to say to that.
I've got to keep you on your toes. Keep you on your toes, haven't I?
My goodness, your entrances keep getting better and better.
Showtime.
Well, with that, hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Monsters of North podcast. If you can't tell what we're doing this week, it's the movie that's on everyone's lips at the moment. That is amazing, by the way.
It's an original 1988.
Oh my good God, it looks like a Pee Wee Herman has been painted as Beetlejuice.
It pretty much is, to be honest with you.
Sorry, audio listeners will not be able to see Dan's amazing doll. It looks fantastic.
His head spins and he's got the pulley, the pull string at the back, and he says quotes. But I think I daren't do it because he's like so old.
No, he'll disintegrate.
The whole thing will just go.
It'll just go. No, don't. Yes, we're doing Beetlejuice and our thoughts and feelings on Beetlejuice. Is it a marketing thing? You know how it's like the first one's Beetlejuice, but the second one's Beetlejuice, and you have to say it 3 times. So you say it 3 times.
But I think there'll be a third one where you actually say it 3 times.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised.
Because of the way it was left. So I am somewhere in that kind of...
I wouldn't be surprised on the back of how things have gone for Mr. Burton recently. Yeah. So I'll get the disclaimer out the way with, and then we'll crack on into this week's episode. So, everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our Facebook pages, maybe the Nerdy Up North Discord, or the comment section, where we can have an open discussion. But we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in fandom. So, let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism.
Don't be a dick.
Easy, simple, to the point. Don't be a dick.
Correct.
Also, for anyone watching us on YouTube, I apologize. This is not Lydia Dietz's hair. This is just mine, really dirty. So, it's absolutely horrific. If I took my hair bubble out, I'd be looking at the same hairdo. So, Beetlejuice is the 1988 and 2014 American dark fantasy comedy horror. Oh, that's a mouthful. Directed by Tim Burton, from the screenplay by Michael McDowell and Warren Scarron, based on a story by McDowell and Larry Wilson. The 2024 one screenplay was done by Alfred Goff and Miles Miller, starring the amazing Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, and Catherine O'Hara. Say it once, say it twice, but don't you dare say it 3 times, as Monsters of North brings you Beetlejuice.
Every time Catherine O'Hara's mentioned, do you know what my brain does? David, why do you have a face like a disgruntled pelican? I mean, I don't. That is, I just and then
fold the cheese.
Yeah, fold it. Fold it. Why?
What do you mean, fold the cheese?
What is the purpose of this?
Me and my best friend Amy do that all the time.
Oh.
Fold the cheese.
Oh.
When I think of Catherine O'Hara, I always get Sally's song come in my head, which is now what's playing up there while I'm talking. I was so lucky in 2019 before the world went to shit. See that lady live and see her sing that live, and it is something I will treasure in my memory. I hope to God my memory doesn't fail me as it normally does, and I forget that, because I never ever want to forget that moment.
Was that the Danny Elfman thing?
Yeah, it was
Around, yeah.
the anniversary edition. The anniversary concert. I saw it was doing the rounds.
Yeah.
Around, like, yeah. I saw it in Glasgow, me and my sister. I mean, our seats were in the gods because the tickets were so expensive.
Mm.
But for the fact we were in the gods, we literally were looking down directly on the stage. I genuinely thought I had amazing seats because I could not only see everyone, I was on top of them. I loved it. The only non-original cast member who wasn't there was Paul Rubens.
Yeah.
And that upset me dearly. It really, but it was Greg Proops.
Oh, really?
Who took his place. It was so I thought that was really, I like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
For those of you who don't know who that is, he was on a TV show in the UK. He's also on the I think he's on the American one still, but Whose Line Is It Anyway? He was like one of the main, like they had a core of comedians that would come on the UK one, and it was like Greg Proops, then they had
Ryan Stiles.
Yeah, Heap and Wall, one of those guys. I think and then there was like Josie.
Oh my God, Josie! Yes. Oh, I can't think of it.
I can see her face.
I can updo hair, bright red lipstick.
Yeah, beautiful. But I've
gorgeous.
Got the name. But yeah, and it was just he was like Greg Proops was one of the core staple guys, and I used to remember it was on either just before Cheers or after, just before Roseanne. I can't remember. It was in that kind of like era. So and Margarita Placatan. Yeah, R.I.P. Margarita.
Oh, and yeah, he used to have a quiff. Remember his quiff? Yeah, he still had that. But he did Paul Rubens' part, especially like the Lock, Stock and Barrel bit, and the original guy who did Oogie Boogie. That was amazing. But it was Catherine O'Hara's Sally song. I mean, I'm just bawling. Like, I cannot stop crying. I actually have on the wall outside a present that I got from my team, and it's the Nightmare Before Christmas, Simply Meant to Be lyrics going down. I got it for my wedding, not our wedding, but when I got married.
I've got an opinion that people aren't really going to like, and I think that Nightmare Before Christmas was a landmark movie in respect of keeping the art of stop-go animation alive. But for me personally, I prefer Frankenweenie than I do to Nightmare Before Christmas, because, and I know this is the only reason, it's got nothing to do with the story, nothing to do with the characters, it's because Disney bought it and the market became so oversaturated. So all you see is merchandising for Nightmare Before Christmas. You're not allowed to get it. So for me, it just becomes that thing that I'm not interested in anymore, because I've seen so much of it. But Frankenweenie every time. The stop-go version, not Tim Burton's original live action that he did, which was one of his first movies. So.
I love Vincent.
Yeah.
I love Vincent, and Sparky, I think, is in that.
Yes,
or a version of Sparky is in that. I love Frankenweenie. I took my nephews to go and see that, and it has one of those plots where it's like heart-wrenching. Like the idea that he gets to bring his dog back, but then has the heartbreak of going through it all over again, that he that to me, it's Ghost all over again. and it breaks my soul. So I'm sitting there with my little nephews watching this, and I'm like, shouldn't be doing this. This is horrible. But I love Frankenweenie. I the only bit of merchandise I have is this. I got this from a friend on my 30th birthday. And I have the one and only mug that Disney brought out, with a big tall one with the green and black handle, like striped handle, and it's got like all the people on. The one when they used to do their big tall mugs.
Yeah.
I love Frankenweenie.
Because the story was Frankenweenie, Zero, and then what was the other one in The Corpse Bride? his
The
dog
bone one.
little,
Yeah. I know who you mean. I'm not a fan of the Corpse Bride.
But then the linear, they reckon it was something along the lines of Frankenweenie, then it turned into the bone dog from Corpse Bride, then it was Zero or some other way around, that he wanted to keep his dog with him. But there was something that proved that theory alive when we get to it in the second movie, which I will talk about when we get there, if I remember. So
if you remember.
I don't think I wrote it down. Yeah, I'm going to write it down now.
Don't ask me. I've got the worst memory. But we are here to talk about, for all we're talking about Tim Burton's other classics, we're here to talk about Beetlejuice. But it is one of Tim Burton's classics that gets us to actually have Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice has been going for a long time in respect of production. It didn't just, this isn't Tim Burton's brainchild. I just want to put that out there right now. Yeah. Tim Burton was offered this movie after God knows how long of it going on to where it eventually lands on Burton's lap, all because of one movie and one movie alone, Pee-wee Herman's Big Adventure.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I love Pee-wee. Oh, rest in peace, Paul, please. I'm still not there yet.
It was a winner for me. I love that film.
I love it. But that movie is the catalyst of movies.
Yeah.
This, if you don't have Pee-wee's Big Adventure, he doesn't get Batman. He doesn't get Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
He possibly doesn't get any other one, because that is the movie that it made him a Hollywood director.
And the only reason the script landed on his desk over than anybody else's was because he worked with McDowell on an episode of Hitchcock Presents called The Jar.
Yes.
And this is where his working relationship with McDowell started, and his also musical relationship with a certain Mr. Danny Elfman. Danny composed the music, the score that was in that episode. Tim directed it, and Malcolm basically wrote it, from what I could gather. There's not a lot about it, and I didn't go back and watch that episode because I only found out about that about 3 hours ago, so it's not something I could have looked into really with enough time, but I would have gone and watched that episode had I have known.
I knew about that on Wednesday when I did my notes, and I didn't look at it. But what I did, sorry, I'm just going to explain to anyone on YouTube, I did not bring my laptop with me today, so my notes are right here, which means that I am very illuminated and I appreciate how big my forehead is and the shine that comes off it. So I apologize in advance. I'm giving a lot of apologies on my appearance tonight. Thank God for audio.
She looks fine. She's being dramatic.
I am a drama queen.
Drama.
I really am.
Yes, so I'm going to start this off so I can get rid of this bit of paper. But okay. The 1988 version of Beetlejuice had a budget of 15 million in 88, which gave it a budget of 40 million by today's standards in 1988, right? That's a big budget. So they've obviously looked at, because I know what happened. He did Pee-wee. Mm-hmm. He then got Batman, but he didn't do Batman till after this because of the way the scripts worked out and the way the mm-hmm. timing from the from all the picture houses worked. But yeah, so he was given 40 million off the back of him having Batman already. And Geffen was like, yep, we've got to get this movie out before you start really, going up down the comic book thing. We want to get this movie out. So they invested 40 million in it, and it turned over on the box office 74.7 million in 1988, which is the equivalent to 198 million in 1988. I was 8 years old when this film came out, and I didn't get to see it because I was too young. So I didn't get to see this film till 90s. We're probably talking early 90s VHS copy one of your friends had because their parents bought it, and we're sort of talking maybe 92, 93, because it used to be about anywhere between 2 to 4 years before you got something on VHS.
God.
It was a long bloody time. You could rent it if you were lucky enough, or you had a VHS or a Betamax. If you couldn't afford a VHS or a Betamax, you had to wait for TV, so that was a long time.
And right now, Beetlejuice is on Netflix, Prime, ITV, BBC. Like, it's been all over the place.
But yeah, that's an insane amount of money. 198 million off the back of 40 million in it's That's insane to think that the investment is where it is. So,
and it paid off. Thank Christ it paid off. Not just on this, but on Batman. Just imagine if this didn't pay off.
I think it was so different to what was out there, and especially with what Burton did with the script, because this movie was never intended to be a comedy, horror comedy, whatever way you like to say it.
This was going to be a gore fest.
Yeah, McDowell was very much in the place of wanting this to be more of a tragedy horror, kind of like, oh God, everything is awful.
Oh yeah, I have the original script. The Maitland's car crash is much more graphic. Barbara's arm gets crushed. This is why when Barbara walks up to the fire, so there's some bits that have been kept in, very minor, because Barbara walks up to the fire and he's like, "How's your arm?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a bit sore now, but I'm more cold than anything." I only know this because I've watched this film 4 fucking times this week. So yeah, Barbara's arm was crushed. There was screaming as they were slowly drowning. Barbara does remark her arms are frozen upon returning as a ghost. The Dietzes when they're in the the carpet attacks them. As opposed to the dining room scene, they get attacked by carpets. Beetlejuice was more demonic.
Yeah.
Than he was cartoonish.
Yeah, because they basically, there was some really messed up stuff in McDowell's one as well. Lydia had a younger sister in McDowell's one, and Beetlejuice turns into a giant squirrel and kills her at one point in McDowell's version. Also, there is the ending was that Beetlejuice got exorcised out of the house. And then the Maitland's house, as we know it, got shrunk down to go into the model. But instead of the Dietzes living there, they then moved out and went back to New York, but they left Lydia with the Maitlands in the tiny house. And
as you do.
It was just absolutely nuts. I mean, I can't see anyone else playing this part than Keaton, but we know that Keaton, this was his, well, I would say this was Keaton's real on the map job.
This is the mark. This is the mark that Keaton stamps.
This is pre-Batman. And we know, and I will not have it said by anybody else, and I will argue this till the cows come home, Keaton is my Batman. He has always been my Batman. He will always be my Batman. And I know people can love other Batmen, and that is perfectly acceptable too. But for me, no one's ever going to change my mind on the fact that Keaton is Batman.
Keaton is my Bruce Wayne, but Val Kilmer is my Batman. I can't even be normal about this and pick a Keaton or, an Affleck or something like that. I have to go for Val Kilmer. Like, I loved Val Kilmer's performance. He is my Batman, but he is my Bruce Wayne.
And that's the thing, because of Beetlejuice and the relationship that Michael grew with Burton at that point when he was filming that, it then took them into a fantastic place when they moved into Batman, because there was this level of understanding on how to work together. But the thing was as well that anybody, like all the interviews I've been watching on YouTube with all the cast members from the 80s back up to now, they've all said the same thing. The way that Tim works is he never discounts your opinion. He plants the seed of what he wants. He lets you go do your thing until you get to where he wants you to be, but then he will turn around and go, great idea, well done, and he makes them think it's their idea. And they all know what he's up to, but they say that it fosters this kind of sense of collaboration, so you feel like you had a part in that specific scene that was your making and your making only. It wasn't like a directorial kind of instruction, so it felt more personal. It felt more personable, and that's how Keaton loves working with Tim, because he does that. He makes you feel very comforted in your choices.
Oh, absolutely. There's 2 people who have said, so I'll get into a bit more detail later on, but there was meant to be a sequel very closely after this one. And Keaton and Winona Ryder both said, we're in, as long as Tim is in.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. When the rumours mill started to come out that there could potentially be a Beetlejuice, Winona had it written in her contract for Stranger Things that if this came up, she would be leaving. She would need a break. And the Duffer Brothers thought, it's never going to happen. And they agreed.
Yeah, I mean, she did say, she said it would be an indefinite break until the movie had finished. So I think that meant all the because what people don't understand is when an actor signs on to a movie, there is a short period prior to the movie even filming where they block out the scenes, they go read-throughs. So that can take a month if they're able to have that amount of budget for a month's worth. Then they go into pre-production, then they go into actual filming, and once the filming's done, the editing goes into. So then the actors are not needed for a little bit until they have to redo scenes. So they'll bring them back to film certain bits that didn't really sit right, or they weren't edited right and they don't flow through. So they brought back for those edits. Then their duty doesn't end there. They then have to do the press junkets, and they then have to do the premieres, and that can last. This whole process can last for a year and a half, 2 years, depending on how long it takes from the movie, from the read-through to the release. You know, and even then, when it gets put out on streaming platforms, they sometimes have them back for more interviews. So it's not just a simple like, this film is coming out. Press junkets are hideous. They have one interview after another. You get 10-minute slots with famous people, of constant barrage of people asking the same questions. You can have an absolute week of this. And then you can go into the longer interviews. So you can be interviewed by, say, Good Morning Britain or bloody Fern Cotton or somebody. I don't know who does morning TV. I have a job. I don't watch it. I don't know.
No, me neither. I would never clue. Loose women?
I know it ain't Philip Schofield, but
hey! Who said that?
Jeffrey Jones said that.
We'll get into that in a bit.
There's a connection. Yeah, I mean, I
took a doctor.
Oh, it does though. It does. I can't see anybody else playing this role, because for me, I am institutionalized from watching this film so many times. No one will ever be able to do it. So when they said the original person that Tim had in mind, I said, I beg your fucking pardon. I beg your fucking pardon. Because ultimately, this would not work in any way that I can ever see it working.
In no capacity, in no lifetime, in no multiverse.
I am a huge fan of music of the 50s and 60s. I was brought up on big band music by my granddad. You know, the Rat Pack were a massive, like, I know most of the words to all of the songs. However, I cannot associate Deo with Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. was Tim Burton's first choice for Beetlejuice.
Yep.
Mr. Bojangles.
Daddy himself. You got to really know your musical history
to
know where I'm referencing there.
It's, you know, I can't, in a world where you look at Tim, where you look at Michael now, and the makeup.
That was a theatre trailer. In a world.
We take one look at Michael Keaton's makeup as Beetlejuice, right? How does that translate onto that sort of colour?
Yeah. And not just that, Sammy Davis Jr. was a very small person.
He was tiny.
He would not have been able to command the same presence as Michael Keaton. That is such a great segue, because I have the alternatives for this movie.
He's a cheeky chappy though, and that's the thing about Sammy. He was well known for being a cheeky chappy, which I kind of understand would lend to the comedy element of the film. However, at that point in time, when they went to film this in 1988, I think Sammy would have been 63,
maybe.
Yeah. So, and I know, Michael Keaton turned 73 the day before the release of this film. Right. So it's not a slight on age. However, when Michael played the original Beetlejuice, he was in his 30s, and he was very much of a physicality. He's a physical actor. And
Michael doesn't look like he's aged a fucking day, by the way. He looks so good. I watched him recently in The Founder.
Yeah, the McDonald's one.
Oh my God, that movie is so good. And I was like, can I just put this out there for now? For forever. It was only last week that I finally saw Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. I have watched this movie thousands of times, and it's like Dustin Hoffman in Hook.
Right.
I can't see Dustin Hoffman in Hook. I can't see it. That's not Dustin Hoffman to me. That's just a person.
Right.
And it was the same with Beetlejuice. I could not see Michael Keaton behind the makeup. That's how fucking good the makeup is. And when I get on my rant later on, you will understand that. The makeup is that good, I can't make out. And Michael Keaton is so different to anything else I've seen him in.
Mm.
It's just he hides. It's not in a bad way that he hides behind the makeup, but he's unrecognizable. He is just that character. That's how good he is. But I do have the alternatives for the casting. Sammy Davis Jr. is top one. Also considered was Dudley Moore.
Yes, no, I can't see that. Again, short man.
Short
He's got
man.
a very
Yeah.
certain thing.
Yeah. Sam Kinison.
See, I can't picture who that is.
Sam Kinison. You will know him. You will know him. I promise you. I promise you. Do you know I've got my phone out and I'm freaking never mind. Sam Kinison. Right, okay. You do know. God, you have to know him. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
He died in 92.
Right.
Oh God, he's I know him. Me and Anth have seen stand up. Think of the late 80s. Actually, think of the 80s stand up and how big it was. And it used to be on vinyl records and stuff like that. The minute you see his face, Dan, you'll know exactly who he is. He did Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah.
Small guy.
Yeah. He did have he had an idea, didn't he? Clearly, Burton had a preconceived notion of what he thought he wanted. So how he got to Michael, I don't know. Obviously, maybe the Batman thing, and they were like, oh, hey, we've got this guy, he might be doing Batman, we've auditioned him for that. Do you want to take a look at him for your film?
Yeah.
I don't know how he got from all these very vertically challenged men
to Keaton, who's a tall guy. But yeah, it was Geffen suggested Keaton, and Tim Burton was quite unfamiliar with his work, but took a chance. He was very quickly turned around. What was the movie before this? This was the one that Michael was recognized for. Oh God, that's going to annoy us. I'll find out in a minute.
One of my personal favorite Keaton movies is Birdman. If you want something really weird.
Oh my God, what an amazing film.
So strange, but it's brilliant.
I just remember the ending and I was like, is he?
Yeah.
Is he? I'm still asking the question. It's like American Psycho all over again. I'm still asking that question. Did he? Several actresses auditioned for Lydia Deetz.
Yeah.
Sarah Jessica Parker. I'm just going to let that
run him
up. I mean, don't get us wrong. Sarah Jessica Parker suits the role that she played in Edward. I get that. That was good. I didn't mind her in certain parts.
Mars Attacks. She was quite good.
Yeah. First Wives Club. I like her in that. She plays good. The only character I really fucking hate is Carrie.
I don't watch that program.
Don't ever, because Carrie is the worst narcissistic character that ever has been created for television, and she's meant to be the fucking hero of it. No. Brooke Shields. Now remember, this is Lydia Deetz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lauren. Don't know, recognize the name. Diane Lane. Molly Ringwald.
Of the time, yeah. Can't see it, but yeah.
You want a little goth kid? Unless that's not the route that we're going down. She could have only played it Molly Ringwald style. Pink.
16 Candles and
Right.
Very Pink. And yeah. I
But
mean,
the-
she was a bit of, no, it wouldn't have worked. No,
The next two, I think, could have. Juliette Lewis.
100%, but still no.
She's too aggressive. Like she has the look, but her tone can be very aggressive.
She's as mad as a box of frogs in real life.
Oh yeah.
So she when I used to manage bands, Marcus, who used to be the photographer, who used to come and do a lot of the photography for the bands, he was Juliette Lewis's UK official photographer. And he always used to say she would do anything. He said, I'd just say to her, right, we need a wet shot. So she'd go jump in a puddle. She had no airs and graces, but it was just like her brain wouldn't think, oh, I'll get the clean water off the side. It was like, dirty water, let me go jump in that. And you could, she's absolutely, but in the possibly the nicest, like in a way.
I've heard she's a sweetheart at heart.
Yeah. But I can't, my brain doesn't see that. And it's not that I only see Winona, like I only see Michael in this part. It's not that I only see Winona. I think for the icon that is Lydia,
she is iconic.
The weird outcast, the weird kid. You need someone socially awkward that hadn't had movies prior to this movie. Like you couldn't, like with Molly Ringwald and with like the other people like Jennifer Connelly and Alyssa Milano. I don't know how you say it.
Milano.
No one likes her anyway, that one.
No, I don't like her either. But yeah, Milano, she literally was runner-up. If it all else failed with Winona Ryder, our icon of little goth horror girl would have been Alyssa Milano. Milano.
But that's coming off the back because I think Commando was just before then, wasn't it? The movie with Arnie. So she was sort of one of the hot kids at the time, which sounds awful. So I don't mean hot. I mean hot as in property. Like
she's a sanctimonious.
Oh, now
horrible, bitter. Ugh.
As an adult, she's turned into an absolute human steaming pile of garbage. But
But as a child, it was Burton who cast Winona Ryder. The reason I burst out laughing earlier when you said socially awkward, because Lydia as a child has more confidence than Lydia and Winona Ryder as a fucking adult. Yeah. What happened to her?
She's had it beaten out of her. I think that's
really
she's been so jaded by the process of like, because there's a conversation she does have with a there is a conversation, I'm pretty sure it's with the mum, because you'll have to bear with me because I've only seen it twice, so my brain doesn't remember the second film
brilliantly.
But she says something along the lines to her like, says, what happened to the goth kid that used to drive me insane? And she turns around and she says, well, it's funny how since I became famous we've got on better. And she's like, no, I liked you a little bit before then. So it's like the clearly like the death of her husband as well, and there's that whole thing. This isn't a spoiler, by the way, not a spoiler, doesn't have anything really to do with it.
We will tell you when spoilers are going to come to effect.
But it's I think that is the catalyst of why she's so different as an adult. But I like the fact that they kept the core Lydia hairdo, they kept that element,
the voice as well, even though the voice is very similar to Joyce.
It's very soft,
really, really soft. And there's something about Winona's performances, like this is not the Winona Ryder from Girl Interrupted.
No,
this is not the Winona Ryder from Dracula.
No,
this is Winona Ryder who something has changed in her. So I was watching a podcast last night of reviewing this, and they pointed out that it's like Winona Ryder, it's like she forgot how to act. And she is because she's been through so much hardship. Like if you remember, she was fucking huge. Then she had the incident with the shoplifting, which
married to Johnny, married to everyone.
Completely ruined her career, to where she then started coming back as bit parts. She was a bit part in Friends, in Mr. Deeds, and it's only since Stranger Things that Winona's name is back out there again, and it's almost like she actually can't handle it, and it has an effect on her performance. But I don't know if that is Winona just playing. I don't know how to explain it, that the way that it's in my head.
I think there's a 36-year gap between the first one and the second one.
Mm,
Now, you're under immense pressure to recreate a character that
that's true.
everybody holds so dear. So I know that in an interview I watched with Michael and with Winona, and Catherine was in this interview. It was the three of them because they're obviously the only three the three original cast members technically. They were saying that there was a certain level of pressure on them to deliver the characters that everybody held so dear, the familiarity, but they'd written one of them very, very differently. So it was mainly on, they've written Delia a bit differently. So it was mainly on the shoulders of
amazingly.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I love that. I will never have a bad word said about her. But with Winona and Michael, it was more so them that had to carry the weight through translating their characters from 36 years ago and remembering their process, remembering how they got to those places. Remember, I mean, you've got to think Winona was 15 years old when she was Lydia, and now she's 51. She's 51 years old now, you know. So
this reminds me how old I am.
Yeah, she's only 7 years older than me.
This movie
literally 7 years older than me.
She's 10 years older than me. This movie just reminds me how old I am whenever I think back on it. I've got Delia now.
This one.
Oh, how I love you, Catherine O'Hara, but you will be on this wall at some point as a, permanent shrine. But I really would love to have seen the Delia that should have been, because Catherine O'Hara is on the back of illness and scheduling. Because if it wasn't for that, we would have had the amazing Angelica Houston playing Delia Deetz. I'll just let that sink in for a minute.
I can't see it.
Oh, can you not?
No. Angelica, for me, in anything she's ever played in, be it The Witches, be it Addams Family, obviously, be it John Wick, be it 100,000 things she's been in, all of her characters have been very well put together, very had a certain poise about them. They're very, I don't know, they have a sense of something, like they know what they're doing, they have a purpose. Delia is batshit cuckoo bananas. She's a neurotic nut job. She's every emotion at once, Delia. So I mean, for me, this is why I identify with Delia so much. So for me, she's like this ball of like, and scribble, and like when you scribble, that's what I see Delia as. She's like a big scribble because she's everything all at once at all times. She just doesn't know how to. That's my brain. It's a big massive scribble. It's a huge. No, I saw Angelica Houston in 50-50. Right. Playing the mother of what's his name? Pretty boy. 10 Things I Hate About You, not Heath Ledger. What's his name? Pretty. Yeah, but it's not Heath Ledger. It's the other one. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yes. Him. Yeah. And Seth Rogen. It's an amazing film. Really heartfelt. He gets diagnosed with cancer. He's like lived a good life. He's like the perfect person. He exercises. He takes care of himself, and he still manages to get cancer. Film. Yeah, and it's like the cancer he gets is like a 50% chance of him actually getting it. And Angelica Houston plays his mom, and she's very erratic, and she's very scatty, and she's a mom basically. And our husband's got dementia, our son's got cancer, and she doesn't do. It's not Delia. I cannot say it's that kind of dramatic, but at the same time, it was just a different look of how she can do scatty but having it a bit together. So I kind of get what you mean by where Angelica Houston is very made up, because even when she's at her scattiest in that movie, she's still put together. Yeah, she just has an air of grace about her, Angelica Houston. There's this like she has that royal thing. Yeah, no, I explain it. It's majestic. That's the word. Yeah, it's majestic. It's powerful. I read a story on TikTok the other day, and I had to, the TikToks where you go slide to look at the next one. I had to. This gorgeous picture of Angelica Houston, and it was her love story with Jack
Why is names forgetting my head today? Yeah, Jack Nicholson. And it was how she found out that, you know, how they met, how they had this amazing life, you know, child-free life, like loving life, and then he goes and cheats on her. And it was her describing this heartbreak, but also the love that she still shared for him. She knew the man who she was in a relationship with. She had no delusions on the man, but it still broke her.
Yeah.
And it was just it was a lovely story. I really have a lot of time for Angelica Houston.
The only thing I don't with her is that whole thing where she was allegedly, and I say this allegedly because it's a rumor that's been going around for many, many years. She allegedly was giving money to the IRA at one point.
Oh my God, I really hope that's not true.
It's a well-known rumor. And again, I say rumor because I've never heard it confirmed. But it was either that she didn't know the gravitas of what she was doing, and she got approached for some money, and she said she gave them money thinking, you know, free the people, but it wasn't. Yeah, there was a whole thing about it. It was in the news and everything, I remember. So I don't know if it was done under false pretenses. I don't know if it was done.
I'm gonna forget you said that.
That's the only thing with Angelica Houston that sticks in my brain that I can think about. That
I did not know that.
Yeah.
No, that does not sit well with me. Irish heritage and everything, and no, I can class that as some kind of offence. If I came over on the titty boat, I didn't, but my family came over on the titty boat. Did you too?
I'm a third generation. What is my surname? His. I'm a third generation plastic paddy, you know. So
oh my gosh, our family could have been on the same boat, on the same titty boat.
My nan and my granddad.
You went that way, and I went that way.
My nan was from Dublin, my granddad was from Limerick, and they had my dad in the same hospital I was born. So
oh my God, I actually did know that about you.
Yeah. So I'm technically I'm third generation, or I don't know how it works on generation. Was my dad first generation and then I'm second, or was I third generation?
He's second, because he's second and you're third.
Yeah, I always get confused because obviously they came here. So was he the first, because he was the first born in the UK, in England?
No, because you were. So
but yeah, nevertheless, I'm still a plastic paddy anyway. So
I'm 36% Irish. It's on my dad's side, and I am 54% Scottish, which is on my mum's side, and then the rest is kind of like mixed because we came from one place to another, so it's kind of mixed in York and split. Like basically, I'm from here. Like I didn't go. My family didn't go very far.
I can say potato, and I'm offending myself, so it's fine.
I was like, we came over from the titty boats.
Don't mention the famine.
Oh my God, a customer of mine actually picked up from my accent where my family come from in Ireland. Now I had to go and check it out with one of my aunties, and she was like, "Yep, that's it." Like, oh
hello,
gosh.
Are you stalking me? Thank you. Bye-bye.
She was so good. Barbara. We get in the end. Why can't I think of her name, Dan?
Geena Davis.
Oh my God, what is going on in my brain today?
Who, by the way, used to date my favorite person on earth, Jeff Goldblum. So,
and she's still to this day beautiful.
I don't understand why she didn't get more love, Geena Davis, in her younger years. Now I've seen her in so much stuff. She's getting like a whole new Lisa.
Oh, that's a shame. But I'm glad.
Yeah.
But you should have appreciated her then. You should have Thelma and Louise. Thelma and Louise.
Obviously she did Fantasy Island as well, wasn't it? It was something like called like that, where she had the pirate thing with Matthew Modine. Then she was, I loved her in the Exorcist TV show.
Oh my good God, yeah, we watched that. Very disappointing ending, but we thoroughly enjoyed it. We actually binged it in one night, and then I remember seeing the episode before it got revealed. I was like, oh my God, I know who she is. I figured it out.
I liked her in Grey's as well, because she was good in Grey's Anatomy.
I
So,
remember.
I mean, she's now picking up some more steam, but I loved what she said about the second one. But again, we'll go into that later.
Well, you could have not had any of that. And you could have had the first choice, which I think is a weird choice, but it's not for the time of when the movie was done. We could have had Barbara played by Kirstie Alley. Yeah. But you've got to remember, Kirstie was huge. She was in Cheers at the time. She had a name. Look who's talking. You know what I mean? Like, she had some name behind her, but she is not a sweet-natured person. She is an aggressive. I can tell why you're pulling that face. I know exactly why you're pulling that face. Dan, no one speaks sign language.
Well, I mean, you're free to support whomever you support, but when you openly support the cheesy what's it to an extent that you become incredibly opinionated about race and about gender and about things
Isn't
that.
she a Scientologist? I
Oh,
mean, she's
yes.
not now, she's dead. But
Yeah,
wasn't she
exactly.
a Scientologist?
She not only was she a Scientologist, but she was also a contributor to the old cheesy what's it fund.
Oh my gosh, so she was a gun-toting Republican.
She was, yeah. And that's, to me, was incredibly disappointing. Again, follow who you like. I mean, I'm British. It's not, we have our own shit going on over here with what the bloody hell these lot are freaking doing at the minute. But, you know, yours to us is like watching a movie, because you've got a cheesy what's it, you've got a felon versus a prosecutor running for the control of your country.
Did you hear the debate?
Oh,
Oh,
they eat cats in that state.
Cats.
You know, they eat cats and dogs.
No, the best one was abortion.
Oh yeah,
happens at night after the baby's born. Then they have an abortion, and the guy turned around. The woman turned around and went, "No, that's murder. That no one condones that."
Babies. They abort the babies after they've been born.
Oh my
God!
God.
I heard this rhetoric, right, from a bunch of like people that were being interviewed on like TikTok. You see like these little shorts.
Yeah.
And this guy kept going up to all these MAGA protesters, and they was like, "So what's your biggest thing to take away from this? You know, what's your biggest bugbear at the moment?" And they were going, "The fact you can abort babies after they've been born." And he went, "I beg your pardon? What?" And it's like, and these people were, and he's going, "Right, so what's your source? You know, where did you read this?" And he's like, "It's all over the internet." And it's like, clearly he didn't read anything, because, you know,
also,
there's nothing.
It's murder.
It's just absolute nonsense.
It's flat out 100% murder.
I will give the TV company or the people who were running that debate all the credit in the world for putting the fact checkers there, because that was calculated against the cheesy what's it.
Yeah,
that
know
was
what to say. Everything
he said was getting fact checked. And everything he said, they were like, actually, we just run that past them. That's not true.
That's not true.
This is not true. This didn't happen in this state. There's been no and I'm like,
and Kamala is literally, because she's actually listening and she's paying attention, it's almost like she just baits him. She baits him because she knows what he's going to say. It's just, she was
prosecutor. That's what she knows.
She's amazing. They don't know if America goes down that route, they have no idea what they have just lost. That woman is incredible.
Their country is going to change. I don't know who's the better choice. As a British citizen who only partakes in visiting that country on occasion, I cannot comment what's best for your country, because I don't live there. I don't know. But as an outsider looking in and knowing some of the things that the cheesy what's it did whilst he was in power, the Roe versus Wade thing being the main issue for me, and how the damage that has done, not only to human beings who are pregnant, but to the doctors and nurses that help those human beings, to me, is bananas. The ramifications of what that man put into place with one signing of a pen on a bit of paper.
And the likelihood is he probably didn't know what he was fucking signing.
And then the thought that if he's put in for another term, the catastrophic thing that he could bring in next, that to me is a no-brainer, regardless of whatever Kamala has done. For me, the choices are a man that could make something
You could literally set a fucking nuke off. Let's be
will.
honest.
He will one day. If he ever stays in power, that man will. Anyway.
Oh my God, we haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
Tangents.
That's a big one. Right.
Oh,
Okay.
anyway,
So-
Kirstie Alley. But
Yeah.
moving on from Kirstie Alley, because I totally forgot the Scientology route on her. And she's dead. Sigourney Weaver as Barbara. Again, Barbara's sweet and Sigourney can play mean, and I can't see the sweet in them. I just can't. This is my favorite one, Linda Blair.
No.
Linda Blair.
No.
Goldie Hawn.
Maybe.
Sweet. She can do sweet, and she can do. I always think of Overboard, and when she has that
Private Benjamin, there's that. She had a very much a certain.
And them eyes. Oh my God, you would melt in them eyes. Laura Dern.
Really? Jurassic Park?
Yeah, no.
No.
My favorite, Linda Hamilton. The fucking Terminator.
She's my height. I mean,
the Terminator.
She's my height. I didn't know that until the day I met her, and I found out she was literally 5'3". And I looked her in the eye, and I was like, when I went to walk up to her, she went, "Come here, cutie," and gave me like the hands, and I was like, she called me cutie. And then Rob was towering over the pair of us when we had our photo taken with her. So for me to understand that movie magic made her in my head around 5'10", and then for her to actually be my height, I can't see her standing next to Alec Baldwin and it worked.
It's another one. It's another one. I know that's Alec Baldwin, but that's not Alec Baldwin. That's not 30 Rock Baldwin. That's not My Sister's Keeper Baldwin. Yeah. That's a Baldwin I don't know.
Daniel. Oh God, what are the other ones? There's loads of them, isn't there?
Stephen, Daniel,
and then there's one more,
and I can't think of what his name is.
William.
Yeah. The Billy. That's it. Oh, the Baldwins. Yeah, I can't see the Alec Baldwin that we have now in his face. It's like, what happened? Did you just literally balloon out? Did you fill out? Because there's that face is not his face.
It's when you look at Alec there, and then you look at Billy, and you look at. So Billy was in Backdraft. Stephen was in
Biodome, blah.
Usual Suspects.
And Biodome.
But I couldn't tell you what Daniel was in. But they all at a certain.
Well, who's the one in Vampires?
Oh no, that was Daniel.
That's Daniel. Yeah, we did an episode on that.
Oh, Christ. They're all the same person, just in different varies of like putting weight on. They are. You look at the film credits, like, okay, Backdraft came in about 1990, maybe 92, 91, 92. So you've got Thin Alec, Thin Billy, then you've got Vampires, which puts Daniel at a slight chubbier kind of way, and then you get to Usual Suspects with Stephen, and he's also slightly chubby, and then you get to 30 Rock Alec again. It's the same person, just putting on weight over many, many years. So I believe there's only one of them, and we've just been calling him many different names.
Yeah. Alec
Baldwin. That's never going to go away, just like Matt Damon. I'm sorry, Team America has a lot to answer for.
Here, I'm not going to start singing songs because I'll be here all night. The character of Beetlejuice, the actual characteristics, once Keaton gets the role, is pretty much Keaton's to do with whatever he wanted. The look comes from Keaton. 90% of this movie was ad-libbed by Keaton. So when it comes to Beetlejuice or Beetlegeist, depending on how you take your juice, it's very much his character. He set out the design for it, and he said to the amazing V. Neil, "This is what I want," and this is what he got.
Yeah.
Because you know what? V Neil can do fucking makeup. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. I've already had a rant at Dan before we came on here about the makeup.
V Neil is, I love a certain TV program that we never really got on over here.
No, me too. I watched it.
Face Off, obviously.
I made a friend through that.
That TV program for me was amazing. I absolutely adored it. I didn't care that they pretty much did the same thing week in, week out. And I didn't care that Mackenzie Westmore can't see shit without glasses, but she clearly refused to wear them for the majority of the TV show because she was like this.
And she's a Westmore.
Reading the auto cue.
And she's a Westmore.
And she married Patrick Tatopoulos. But V was a long-standing judge on the show from when it started to when it finished, and I never in a million years thought I'd get to have the pleasure to meet her, but I met her last year. Her and Greg Nicotero. I've met Greg a couple of times and had many a chat with Greg, but V I met last year at Spooky Empire.
Did I know that?
It was supposed to be a trio photo shoot with Tom Savini, Greg Nicotero, and V.
I know you didn't meet Tom because he cancelled.
Yeah, Tom cancelled, but V was there, and so I met V and I had a little chat with her. Not a very big one, but yeah, she's absolutely lovely. And I've now met my core three. I've met Greg, I've met V, and I've met Tom over the years. So
do you know how many I've met?
But mine is purely because I'm in that world.
Yeah.
If I wasn't in the world of conventions, then I wouldn't have a clue about any of this stuff, and the fact that people do, you know.
I didn't know that though.
Yeah. She still doesn't look any different to how she looked on TV.
How she looked, she didn't look any different to how she looked in the 80s. She's like Stevie Nicks. That look 80s, doesn't, yeah, 100%. That look doesn't change.
She loved that job. Her two crowning glories was her work. She worked with Tim quite a lot, V, but her two crowning glories was Beetlejuice makeup and the Penguin for Danny DeVito. They were the two makeups she did, and may I say,
I mentioned it on the Nerdy Up North review that we did for Batman Returns.
My favorite Batman movie.
I love Danny DeVito. I love him very much. And there is one toy that I want. It's in a shop in Newcastle, the market. It's in the market. And it's £150. And one day I will get my husband to walk to Newcastle. Not walk to Newcastle. We can get the bus. I mean, we don't do to come to Newcastle with me because I wanted it as a McFarlane, Danny DeVito, Penguin. The detail on it is beautiful. It's very rare because, as I learned through that episode, they didn't do figures on DeVito because of how, I don't want to use the word
unsaleable.
Thank you. But I was going to say something else, and it would have gone back to last week's episode, and I didn't use that word, and I'm not going to use that word. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I just need him to come because I can't buy it. I can't, and I can't.
Also, the reason why it's that expensive is because McFarlane never hold on to a license for very long, so they make X amount and that's it.
I'll pay it, but I'm not getting in trouble. So I need him to come, and I need because he's soft as shit when it comes to me. And
I've seen a couple of them in the real life, and every time I've gone, I'll go out and buy Rob a mum wrap. You know, I've got a mum wrap.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I'll go spend that money on myself.
No. I'll go and buy all sorts. But to think to myself, if I just put that money to one side and I could go and I need this, like it's the only. I'm not bothered when it comes down to collecting. There's certain things that I wanted. I wanted my original Ghostbuster figures back. I've wanted Ecto 1 because even as a kid I didn't have Ecto 1, and I have 2 now behind us. And I like the NECA stuff that come in, and I'll get them when I get them, or I'll ask for them for Christmas. You know, I'm not bothered, but I need this Penguin.
I've got the umbrella, you know, the circus umbrella. I used to sell them in the shop. And the only reason I sold them in the shop was because I wanted one for myself, and I could only justify buying them in for the shop.
I mean, I've seen my old Victorian umbrella.
It's like a parasol, mine, but it's hypnotising.
Mine's just black, but it's the old Victorian style. I look the shits when I walk around in that.
But, so Danny was like, we
were talking about V Neil, if you want to go back off the tangent.
she loved doing Make Up for Tim, because Make Up for Tim was either incredibly simple or so far-fetched she could completely change someone's physiology. And the thing with Beetlejuice was, when you look up close, he's just a wig, a bald cap, white paint, and a bit of moss.
Yeah.
Really, give or take. Dark eyes, white corpse paint, some greeny mold around here, some greeny mold around the hairline, crazy wig.
Not a great deal though.
No.
So I want to make that very clear, because that comes into play on the second one. There's not a great deal of mold around here and around here. Yeah. There's a lot in the second one.
Yeah.
Obviously for reasons. I generally thought for a second that I had my work headset on. I'm looking for a headpiece. It's me bloody hair. Ugh. Hey.
Did you know?
Did I know?
Did you know that McDowell originally called the script Beetlejuice, which is why they went and wanted to call it Beetlejuice, but Warner Brothers didn't want to call it Beetlejuice.
No, they didn't.
They wanted to call it House Ghosts.
But what did Tim want to call it?
Scared Sheetless. And they almost went for that. They almost went for Scared Sheetless instead. He did it as a piss take, thinking they'll never go for it. And they were like, oh, that's good. And he was like, oh, fuck. So in the second one, you'll see the name Ghost House or House Ghost being used again.
Yeah.
So he's recycled the joke.
It's so funny. Where am I? Oh, this bit, I'm going to read this almost word for word, because I don't want to mess it up, but I really like this. This is how the touches that go within this film. So everyone that you see in the waiting room all look how they died. The only reason you don't have Barbara and Adam, thank you, in how they died is that Tim thought it was a bit unfair to keep the actors wet the entire time, so they let them be dry. They were kind to them just because he didn't like the idea of keeping them wet. Yeah. But everyone else is showing us how they died. When Barbara and Adam, God, his name's right there, sitting in the waiting room, and the PA comes on, they announce that flight 409 is arriving at gate 3. United Airlines flight 509 crashed into a mountain in Wyoming on the 6th of October 1955, killing all the passengers and crew on board. So at the time, it was one of the worst plane crashes in history, and that's the announcement that comes on the tannoy that these passengers are coming in. I mean, there's a fair bit time between 1955 and 1988.
Yeah, so that's the bit where I'm confused at what
the timeline.
They originally died. To me, it must have been the 80s. They died in the 80s and they came back in the 80s.
But they don't
go to the waiting room and then they say that flight's coming in. She's not exactly looking like a 50s housewife to me. So,
but what is she looking like? Because her outfit there's no time on it.
No,
it doesn't tell you where she is. So again, I think, and it's been a few times we've done movies, not just here, but when I do the Sunday episodes, where there's no distinct time because the costumes aren't telling you.
It must be the 80s for the reason of the little Janie thing. You know, the lady that wants to sell their house.
Oh, she's horrible, isn't she?
Yeah, but she has little Janie in the car, doesn't she?
Yes.
And then
yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, you win. It's the 80s.
It must be, but it doesn't make sense because nobody in the 80s dressed like that.
I don't know, like my mum. I'm gonna say my mum wore some questionable fucking outfits. Like,
I mean, I can't picture that dress. It's the dress. It's not the hair. It's nothing else.
The hair is my mum's. My mum's had that hair for sure. My mother's had that hair. Yeah.
Very tight perm.
Oh god, yeah. My mum lived in a perm for a very long time. I'm surprised she still doesn't bloody have one. Like, her hair must have like gone through some, I don't know, because perms for me just feel like that. I could never have a perm. My hair's too thick.
Same. Mine just falls out.
Detail, another little bit of a detail. One that we probably did know, like it probably is one of those Beetlejuice details that everyone knows, is that on the parasol, when Beetlejuice comes up, you get to see a little Jack Skellington head.
On the...
Yeah.
Did you know how they got the original name though? The
No.
Beetlejuice was named because there is a star in the constellation of Orion called Beetlejuice.
I did.
And
Because I made sure I put that
speculate
down.
it's about to explode or already has exploded because its light has been dimming in recent years. So somebody out there already used the name Beetlejuice before this movie came out, before anything, and named a star that.
Oh.
So I can't quantify what does the word mean? Nothing. It's nonsense.
But for many years, I never spelled it Beetlejuice. I spelled it Beetlejuice.
What, the Betelguise?
Well, yeah, because I'm dyslexic and, letters aren't enough that I had to go and learn that one because
I felt like I was spelling it wrong. So I had to go and learn it.
Isn't it? It's the German spelling.
Yeah, it's not though. It's Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had to learn the Beetlejuice one. There's a Beetlejuice calls himself the most eligible bachelor since Valentino came over. The Valentino he's referring to is Rudolph Valentino, who is one of my, how do I describe him? It's one of those infatuations. It's one of those things where the name Rudolph Valentino comes up. I instantly go into this rabbit hole of his history. He was
Lothario.
Oh my god.
But his reputation was apparently horseshit because he liked men. So another one of the many mysteries of hearsay and conjuncture and stuff like that. So
Hollywood was a very strange place. So according to legend, Valentino had Valentino had many women who would what we would class as a beard these days. But these women not only knew what they were in for, they were actually lesbians themselves. His funeral will always be, and I don't want to say one of my favorites, but he did die in 1920. So it's the press, it's the idea of it was an actual show. Like he's got his coffin's laid out, he's actually there, you can see him. And Paula Negri, Paula Negri, who was his girlfriend at the time, throws herself over him in this dramatic fashion, all for press attention. She does it 3 times. And then you've got the legend of the woman in the rose. Valentino's crypt, if you want to go and see it, is at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. But it's actually a loan. He didn't actually buy that. It was a loan given to him by a friend who was actually buried next to him. He never paid for it. He could actually be evicted at any time. They probably won't. But yeah, he has like this whole legend of like the rose, the woman dressed in black who would bring roses. His story has been used countless amount of times. American Horror Story even covered Valentino. I just love the fact that in Monsters, I get to talk about Valentino for a second. And now that second is over with. And we'll continue with Beetlejuice.
Talking about dead people though, there are 3 that have sadly been lost. 3 members of the original movie.
Yeah.
One of them, people don't really realize is the same person. So Patrice Martinez, who is always been not the standout character, but she's been the most memorable to me. I even have a tattoo of her. She's Miss
Recognizable. Yeah. Unrecognizable. She's right behind
Argentina. You. Yeah. And basically she was quite famous in the early 80s, going into just past early 90s. She was in Three Amigos. She was in Zorro, the TV show. Yeah. She was always playing those Mexican beauties or the Spanish beauty. She was very typecast, but this was her first role where she played something so far off of what people used to seeing her as, they didn't realize it was her. But we sadly lost her in 2018 at the age of 55 to lymphoma. She unfortunately passed away. Sylvia Sidney as well, who has one of the most extensive movie careers I've seen on IMDb. It's insane. The lady who played Juno, she wasn't convinced about being in this movie whatsoever. Tim had to go and beg her to be in this film. And then they gave her like sections of the like some of the dailies that she wasn't involved in, and she watched them and she could see what she was in for, and she was quite interested then. But yeah, she died in 1999 at the age of 89 years old.
Get in.
Throat cancer. Now, as horrible as it sounds, her voice was iconic in that film for being so gravelly and so harsh. But it was 11 years after she passed away from throat cancer, so you know, it's like. But and the other one, the other death, sadly, is Mr. Glenn Shaddix.
Oh my gosh, I remember mine. I can't remember when Glenn died, but I remember
died in 2010.
I remember reading about it shortly afterwards, and I was, because this is, you know, on the internet now, we know someone's died before they've taken their last breath. You know what I mean? Like, we know straight away.
Yeah.
Back in 2010, it wasn't, you know, you would get to hear about it back in 2010. It's not that far away, Sam. But you know what I mean? The internet wasn't as quick as what it is today. And I remember I was heartbroken by that one. I mean, it's not Paul Rubens level of heartbreak, but I don't know, it's just when someone's like, he's been such a familiarity.
He was in a lot of stuff, and people don't really realize how much he was in. He was in Heathers, Demolition Man. He even was in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes that Tim Burton did. Please see our Rick Baker episode for that one. He did so much voiceover work towards the end because he got very, very ill at one point and he became wheelchair bound. So he did a lot of voiceover work instead of acting. So his Teen Titans, he did so much on Teen Titans. But he died in 2010 after he fell out of his wheelchair and smashed his head. So it was a genuine accident, and he passed away due to that.
That's so sad.
But he had at his funeral, Deo played, because it was his most for him, that was his favorite role.
Well, this is what fans are not particularly pleased about, because the fact it's being used, recycled for the second one, but who it was recycled for.
Right.
So I get that. But Glenn actually says one of, you know, a very quotable and famous line in this movie is that people who commit homicide become civil servants. Every single person in the waiting room who works there as a civil servant, and they all, I mean, Juno,
that's how she died, and that's how he died, and that's how they died. It's all very personal. If I'd known what I know now, then I wouldn't have had my little accident.
Okay. But yeah, I love that line, and I love him. He's such a character actor. People need to appreciate their character actors, because these are the people who you go, oh gosh, yeah, you've been in so much, and I appreciate them. Appreciate character actors. They bring the joy.
Glenn played the Klingon so well, because he was clinging on to Delia thinking she was the shit when she was terrible. She wasn't the shit, she was just shit. So he was clinging on thinking that he was going to have this wonderful art life or interior design career or whatever the bleeding game was. Then all of a sudden, I was New York's leading paranormal investigator, and like she sat there and she was just like, the girl that sits next to him at the dinner table, she's just like, oh, here we go, another one of his stories, you know,
another one of his jobs he's reeling off that he is. And
next week he'll be a world-class fashion designer, and the week after he'll be some, you know, a car manufacturer. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
And he does it so well, because when Beetlejuice takes off his designer suit and puts him in the pastels, the sheer look of horror on his face.
A scandalo. Oh, he is. He's such a yes man to a no person, because she's no one. Don't get us wrong. I think her talents are something. They're not. She wants to be New York's finest.
Yeah.
And she's not even. I don't know America well enough to give you any poor.
Well, you know, Delia married because she was trying to further herself. Yeah. Marrying Charles was never going to be out of love, I don't think, for her initially.
Maybe because
but like
that's how it felt in the second one.
Yeah, I don't think the intention was ever there for it to be like a marriage. It was a marriage of opportunity for Delia to start off with, because he had contacts, he had people that could further her.
Money.
Yeah, he had money, and Otho had like the ambition, and she
And
was
the
just like
bravado.
the one in the middle that was getting carried along with it.
Yeah.
But initially I feel like that's what she was, and she knew she had to prove herself within the relationship so that he would take her seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Delia, whilst calculated to a degree, wasn't really the brightest kind of person.
Oh my God, no.
No, she firmly believed in her talent, and that it was something that no one else had ever seen. You know those delusional people on the X Factor?
Yeah.
All those years ago when it used to come out, and they used to interview these people before they got up and sung their song, and you thought, all right, they're going to be really, really good. Their mum's got no legs because she was born with a forehead and a hand sticking out of it, and so you have to listen about a whole sob story, nothing about the person themselves, but just everything around it. And then the person gets up there and you think, right, this person's lived such a life, they're going to be really, really good. And then they proceed to be the worst thing you've ever heard in your life. And it's like, that's Delia. She commits to
Bullshit.
She commits to it because she firmly believes she's that good.
I wish I had an ounce of that confidence.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot to carry that, I think.
Yeah.
That kind of level of
bullshittery. Complete and utter bullshittery.
Yeah.
I was mentioning earlier about Michael Keaton and his whole ad-libbing and everything. The scene where and it's the one F-bomb that's in the movie, where he kicks the model tree over. Initially, the tree isn't meant to go anywhere. It's just meant to stand still, but it actually fell down. And that's where Keaton comes up with the greatest line, "Nice fucking model." And it got kept in, and it was completely added. It was technically a blooper.
Yeah.
And Tim loved it so much. That was because you do get one F-bomb in your... Yeah. And you're doing PG movies, you can throw one in as long as there's just one.
Oh God, now I've gone blank.
They did for Guardians.
The amount of time that Beetlejuice is actually on screen for in the first movie. Now, I've read two sources.
Okay, I actually have one, so let's compare.
I've got 14 and 17 and a half minutes.
I've got 14.5.
There you go. We're somewhere in the ballpark between the two. So they say that he's literally on screen for that, and the movie's an hour and a half long. So he's only in it for 15 minutes. But yeah, he's the
impactual punch, the thing, the name,
the geezer.
He is a... You remember the question I used to ask on the first episodes? Does he make a good monster? He does really make a good monster.
He does. But I don't know if I call him a monster, because he's still kind of human.
What is he? Like,
he's not. Lydia refers to him as a demon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a demon after we've seen the second one now. I just think
yes.
He's a very twisted
individual.
Yeah, he was bad in real life, and then he was bad in death. And
how did Burton describe him? It was he having lived in every time period but had no time period.
That's fair.
Yeah. And then Keaton when I say Keaton made this his own, he quite literally made this his own. You don't have this character without Keaton. And why you would not have Beetlejuice 2 as successful if it didn't have Keaton.
Well, they both said, didn't they? The only time Winona and Keaton would ever come back for a sequel is if Tim Burton was directing it. He couldn't just produce it, he had to direct it. Otherwise, they were not in.
No. So after Beetlejuice comes out, it's a massive success, and the sequels are... I'm going to try and find... I've got two versions of this. Yeah, the sequels were like coming in, and companies like, yeah, let's do it. And it was going to be Beetlejuice goes Hawaiian.
Yes, I heard about this.
This got passed to Tim, who lost interest, who then got passed to someone else, who went, no, thank you, to the point where it ended up in the lap of Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go and do Superman Lives, which didn't end up happening.
Thank God. Because don't get me wrong, I love Miss Smith. I do love Kevin. And I know he would do fan service to a degree.
It'd be too much. It'd be too much.
No.
It would have been too much. It would have been far too much. It would have. Kevin's a really good writer. He's actually, but when he wants to, he's like the Stephen King of descriptions, and I know this now because I am reading a King book. He goes to the nth degree to get to a point when something could be more simplified.
Yeah.
And I've learned to accept that about Stephen King, and I've learned to accept that about Kevin Smith to a degree. But given Beetlejuice goes Hawaiian, but hey, Keaton and Winona Ryder were up for this as long as Tim was involved.
And Tim was like, nah.
What did Kevin say on the back of this? That's probably in my second bit. So yeah, it was actually on the back of how well Chasing Amy was wrote, that it was put in the hands of Kevin Smith. It was Warner Brothers who offered him, and he just said, no thanks. He says, didn't we say all we needed to say with the first Beetlejuice? Must we go tropical? He turned it down in favor of, it was actually Superman Reborn. He turned it down for. But yeah. Oh, Beetlejuice goes Hawaiian. There's been posters and all sorts done for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that the dodgy posters that do the rounds every year, like that, the Beetlejuice 2 one were doing the rounds for, I mean, I want to say I saw those posters at least 10 years ago.
I didn't even know that was a thing till you told me about it.
Yeah, when they resurfaced before the new film got announced or any whispers, and they started doing the rounds again, I was like, that's bullshit. I've seen that they've been out 1,000 times, and then within, I don't know, a couple of weeks, boom, Beetlejuice 2 came out, and I was just like, well, not come out, but the stories about them going into production about it, and I was like, I won't believe it till I see anything on set. Then you start seeing the photos of Winona Ryder on set, and it was all filmed. Yeah. The majority of it was filmed in the UK. So,
yeah, because that's what we do. Shall we do Beetlejuice?
We shall.
That's right. So this is your spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. From now on, we are going to spoil the shit out of Beetlejuice.
Uno dos. Yeah.
Uno dos. Initial thoughts. For context, Dan did not see any trailer, not 1 inch of a trailer. So keep that in mind. Initial thoughts.
2 unnecessary characters that I can think of off the top of my head. They add nothing to the storyline, although one of them does have a point within a very long-winded, unnecessary subplot. I think Jenna Ortega was well cast, but I'm sick of seeing her. So for me, because she's so close to Wednesday in this as well, she's different but the same.
Jenna Ortega.
I hate the whole thing with Jeffrey Jones. We paid too much lip service to him in this.
Oh, should we just get this out of the way with now?
Yes, I mean, the guy in 2003 was given. He was charged with photographing children in suggestive,
and then Sharon said
and then Sharon
said some charges were dropped against him.
Yeah,
but it didn't stop his career being absolutely ruined. Also, he did it. And 2, he retired. Sorry, hang on. He retired.
The quote of what he said, I'm not even going to give him the satisfaction of repeating his quote verbatim, but it was something along the lines of, this was a regrettable choice. Okie dokie. Right.
Yeah.
No more than that, but it, and he was given a suspended sentence, so he served no jail time. And he was given 250 hours of going out and picking up litter on the side of the road. So,
what a fucking
he's learned his
punishment.
lesson.
Yeah, what a fucking punishment. You just,
It saddens me because he's done a lot of films that him in, that he's in, like,
Edward.
Edward. He did that movie that I've just gone blank on the name of with
Stay tuned.
Stay Tuned. That was one of my all-time favorites for a long
My mum's. It's my mum's.
I went back and watched it recently and it's lost it now. But back in the day, I loved that film. I even know that whole dance routine. The whole bit where they go through all the channels and there's like the songs and Salt and Pepper is in it. I know that whole bit. I know that
The
whole
Wayne's World bit. I honestly used to get a bit freaked out by it because the Wayne's World bit scares me a little bit. Yeah, it's one of my mum's favorites. That and Leslie Nielsen's
Repossessed.
No, Dracula Dead and Loving It. Repossessed mine, but Dracula Dead and Loving It. I bought her that on DVD and realized she doesn't own a DVD player. But she absolutely just the idea that she owns it now. Yeah. She loves that. She absolutely loves Stay Tuned. But fuck Jeffrey Jones, man.
Yeah, I do believe they played too much lip service to him. But he was an integral part of the story, of the written story.
Totally get that. And they could have done exactly what they did, and I would have been totally fine with it. The only bit that I do not like, and I love the fact that they use claymation to explain his story. It's not him, it's kind of changed a little bit. And then later on, to really, really nail that coffin shut, took his head off. Loved it. Thought, yes, get in. Go Tim Burton. Go Tim Burton. It's the fact they used his real face on the grave.
Correct. That's too fucking far for me. That I was like, no, you did really well because you've actually had to pay him money in real life for using his face.
Yeah, and we don't need to see that. We don't need to see that monster's face.
Everybody knows what he looks like.
Yeah,
they could have just given it a clear shark fin and put his name on it. They didn't, and like you say, then there was the whole hoo-ha because the kids from the Sylvia Young Theatre School, who are a predominantly huge casting / acting school for kids in London. Typically, a lot of you that are around our age will know when I say this. Sylvia Young kids ended up in Grange Hill. They ended up in all of the big TV shows that were in the kids sort of realms when we were growing.
It was the dream, drama school kids. Yeah, that was it was the dream.
When you hit Sylvia Young, you then move on to RADA, basically. Yeah. That's the line. And that was
I remember those days.
Yeah, when I worked at the BBC, they had me clean out cupboards. And I went into this cupboard and it was just books and books and books of the Sylvia Young Theatre School headshots. Great big folders full of headshots of all these kids, and you had to go through and see which ones were relevant, which years was current, and like go through and work out who was still in the schools and stuff like that. But it was one of those things where that was a huge wake up for me because I got to see how many people in one binder were viable for like one job. It was insane. It was absolutely insane.
Drama school, man. It was because I went to a law I just went to drama school, but our drama school was associated with Baker Grove. Yeah. So our extras went there, on Baker Grove. And we had a certain predominant star from the school go to Baker Grove and then goes on to be Charlie Human. And the next time I see, the weirdest thing is, like, I remember him, but like he was a little, I don't know if he was a little bit older than me, but he certainly was in a different class than me. Like he was, because he was beautiful and he was popular and just out there. And then I see him in Queer as Folk. Imagine that. Imagine that is when I see him next. Having Littlefinger do the awful Littlefinger. Getting all down and dirty with Littlefinger. Sylvia Young was where were you going with the Sylvia Young thing?
The song that they were the choir that were singing
Oh my
Deo,
God,
which
I
was
did
then
not
what you were
know
saying.
that.
Yeah, they were the ones that then went back to the whole Glenn Shaddix thing because it was played at Glenn's funeral.
Shouldn't have
And
been played at his.
fans got really angry because they used it for Charles. And as far as they're concerned, Jeffrey doesn't deserve shit. So there was no fan service to Otho. There was no, he was given nothing. And but Charles was given a whole kind of subplot to the movie. So
yeah, sorry, Binks has been really meta. He's rubbing his face up against me boot that's got a black cat on the front. You trying to? I don't. It's not you.
and
Yeah.
I didn't like the ending.
Okay. So my initial thought is loved it, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I am. Remember when I said to you before? Are you someone who hates and loves, or loves and hates? Well, I'm a lover than a hater. So I initially the first thing I say is I loved it. I loved it. You can't because all at that point is just shapes, colors, like things that are like go, and then it digests.
Yeah.
Then it settles in, and then I'm like, oh, there is some things that are a bit off with this. Characters who are not needed. Let's start with Monica Bellucci. I understand that her and Tim Burton are now in a relationship,
Yes.
but that doesn't mean that she was cast initially because of that reason. We all know that Tim likes to use his ladies in his movies. Lisa Marie. Oh my God, that woman is absolutely beautiful. Helena Bonham Carter, Monica Bellucci, but he got one Monica on this film. So I can't quite say that that's the same reason as Lisa Marie and Helena Bonham, but was she needed?
No. There was no reason.
Point.
There was no. Had they have given her right. This is my. I'm a hate, not a hater because that's too strong, but you know what I mean. I'm someone who I will need to watch this many times, not as many as Beetlejuice, obviously, because that's 36 years worth. But I'm someone who might have to watch this 4 or 5 times before I might actually really like it. But where I stand after 2 is that you don't give the thing that he's running from an ending. Justin Theroux, Rory, got his whole spiel about everything, like with the truth serum, so you knew that his comeuppance after whatever happened to him after that doesn't matter. But she didn't
What
really
did happen?
That moment. They got eaten by the sandworm, didn't they?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Rory and the soul sucker got eaten at the same time.
Good job, someone watched it again.
By the sandworm. And it was just like there was no crescendo for her. There was no like big standoff at the end because they were too busy singing. And
I actually really like that, but it's just the song choice. It's RuPaul. Sorry, I'm just going to have to get rid of him a second. He's just causing mischief.
It's Donna Summer, MacArthur Park is what it is. I love me some Donna Summer. Don't get me wrong.
It's one of the most iconic lip syncs for your life on RuPaul's Drag Race. Manila and Delta Good.
When they bit at the beginning, when they started playing the song at the beginning, when the Geffen, the big G ball comes up, and they started playing MacArthur Park, I was like,
I thought it was a genius choice because it's basically saying you can't, what we had originally, we're not going to have again. So if you listen to the lyrics, it's actually telling you that what you had originally is not the same thing. It's going to be different because we'll never have that recipe again.
I don't think that I can take it because it took so long to bake it. And we'll never have that recipe again.
I can't do I didn't know they said hello. I thought it was again. And he kept saying hello. Or,
we'll never have that recipe again. Oh no. And I always thought it was again, but I think they probably, because it was done by Richard Harris, who was a different singer. And I don't know if he was the guy who sung it originally and then Donna Summer did it after him. I didn't look into that too much.
I didn't mind the singing in it.
I think it's not the fact that they were singing, because I know they were trying to mirror the whole Deo situation,
but do something different
with it, right? I get that, but it felt odd to be the crescendo of the film, like that almost the end. It didn't. It felt weird. Like the characters that I don't think were needed. Again, right, we'll go back. I love me some Willem Dafoe, but what the hell was his
What
purpose in
was
that film?
that?
He was a policeman that was an actor that was a policeman that always acted as he
I-
was basically Bruce Willis.
I actually really found it funny that his assistant always kept bringing him coffee and he never drank it. I found that there's certain things of Defoe's character, and we love Defoe.
Yeah.
We love Defoe. Can't wait for Nosferatu to come out. But I don't understand why he was there in the first place.
I understand his job was to investigate the crime that was committed by Bellucci. And so he warned Beetlejuice that she was coming and that.
Right, yeah.
But like,
But
it was part of another storyline. It was part of that storyline that if it wasn't for us having Danny DeVito at the beginning,
did you get the shock of your life?
Bellucci's, I knew it was him the minute I saw him from behind.
Minute, I went, oh my God, Frank!
And it was the fact when he was drinking the Drano or whatever the bleeding Ellie was drinking, I was like, that is Frank. That's Frank as a zombie. All down his face like that. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, that is Frank. That's not Danny, that's Frank.
Yeah, and then like it's like, hey Toots. I was like, yep, that's Frank.
He's not even credited in the opening scene, like in the opening thing. He was a complete nut. He wasn't in any trailer.
Yeah.
We nobody had any idea that DeVito was going to be in it, but do you know what, the whole Batman and DeVito, Batman and Penguin jest that they had at the Oscars, was it the Oscars, when Schwarzenegger and him were like talking down to Keaton, kind of makes us like, oh, you knew you'd be working together again.
There was definitely something going off there.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a soul sucker, but they didn't utilize her. I think it was either an editing choice where they chopped out a lot of it, or
potentially, or they did not know what to do with her and they wanted to use that. They're getting
exactly.
that. Yeah. They're getting that. And Monica is fucking beautiful. When in the scene where they're doing the whole going back over their time and it's all done in Latin. Is it Latin or Italian? It's Italian.
Yeah.
Italian. She's actually doing her lines. She speaks fluent Italian.
Yeah,
that woman is beyond moi.
She's absolutely stunning. This isn't a slight on Monica Bellucci, because at the end of the day, she's been in some amazing things. She was even in The Matrix. She played the the Marquis or whatever his name was. She was his she was the one who let Neo out anyway. So
she wears that peach PVC dress. I always remembered it. Oh my good God. I know when I said to Anth she was in this film, he was like, who? And I went, The Matrix. He knew exactly who I was talking about. She's beautiful. She's a great she's a great actress who didn't even get to stretch them acting chops.
No, she in my opinion, she either needed more exposition, she needed more, they needed to give her more for her character to work. I mean, for me, it seemed like a forced Sally with a vengeance, because she was all bits that were put back together, which is what Sally is. She sews herself together, doesn't she, Sally?
Yeah, she stapled herself together, didn't she?
Yeah, so that's,
I did like that transformation bit though, and a lot was and it was the Bee Gees as well. I was like so happy. If they chose Steps, I'd have been furious. But the practicality, that was one of the things that Keaton said must be a must. We have to use practical effects. We did it originally. We're doing it now. I'm going to get it out of the way with, I fucking hated Beetlejuice's makeup. I did not like it at all.
It was too brown.
I get the fact that moss grows, so the moss around his face would grow. I totally understand that, but you don't have to go full on. The best part about the original makeup is done so subtly. So there's little bits of moss like everywhere, like just tiny little bits. You've got a full on green fucking patch on the side of his face, and it's not moss green. It's the Monsters logo green. It's a luminous. It's neon.
And then there's sections of like brown, and I was like, Are you trying to suggest that the brown stuff is the old stuff melting away and this is new stuff growing? I mean, I get it, but it looked like what they'd done was they'd taken a photo of V from like the V Neil photograph that they would have had from the original movies, and they tried to recreate it. And one of them's gone, do you know what? If we do a bit more here and a bit more there, it'll make sense. And they've just gone, yeah, and gone with it. Which choices? Okay, but it.
No,
they should have just rehired V, and I don't know why they didn't. I couldn't find any reason.
I couldn't. No, I couldn't read it. She hasn't even mentioned anything on our Instagrams. She's been in the convention season.
She won Oscars for this film. Why the hell wouldn't you get the Oscar-winning makeup artist for it?
I know. So did Burton. The only Oscar he's ever won is this one.
It's insane to me.
It's a tragedy. No. Yeah, it's a tragedy that that she didn't get an opportunity to come in and recreate. Once again, I understand his face would change in the afterlife. The reason you don't have Geena Davis and Alec Baldwin is because time.
Yeah.
They're ghosts. They're meant to be timeless. They're meant to be ageless, and you can't. Geena Davis said it perfectly. She was like, she said, the Maitlands were ghosts, and we've kind of aged. Well, I haven't aged, but age does happen. I love her. So yeah, I can understand that, but I'm going to say this for the makeup artist. She can do good hair. Delia's hair is inspirational, very inspirational, because that red is something to be desired. It is beautiful how they evolved her red hair from the first one to now. It's perfect. It takes you away from the fact that Catherine could have if she hadn't dialed it back a few notches, could have been playing Moira Rose again.
Yeah. I mean, they alluded to it at the beginning in her art exhibition. I saw it the first time I watched it. I saw it straight away, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's Chromageddon!" Where she's standing there and there's all the crows, and she's like this in a big wig, and I was like, "That's a nod to Schitt's Creek if ever I've seen one." That is.
But that was genius. That though, it's the way
so well done.
But it was the way she shouted for Astrid, and I was like, oh no, don't bring it back, pull it back. But the hair in this, who is done by the same the makeup artist, go and have a look at her filmography and you'll understand she's very good at hair. I've completely forgot every movie that she ever did because, my brain. Delia's hair and Lydia's hair. Lydia's hair is just fantastic. The fact that she's still got the fringe and everything. There's just certain parts of the makeup I'll never forgive them for.
I always think the introduction of Rory was quite a good idea in one way. But the whole purpose of Rory was for you to dislike him. That was his whole purpose in this film. Full stop. Dislike Rory. Justin Theroux is
I love that man so much.
He was actually in another one of our episodes, if you go back and watch it, which was American Psycho. He played one of Patrick Bateman's friends in the circle.
What also gets me is that he is the ex-husband of one Jennifer Aniston. The production is done by Plan B, who is Brad Pitt's.
Yeah, Brad Pitt is the executive producer on this film. And his cousin is Louis Theroux.
Yes, it is.
British.
Also, if you watch Charlie Angels 2, he's in that. And if you watch Zoolander, he is very unrecognizable as the DJ player in Zoolander. Justin Theroux, again, is another character actor.
Yeah, have you seen him in Wanderlust? If you ever want to go and watch a film, Paul Rudd, Jennifer Aniston, and Justin Theroux basically plays this hippie commune leader that's all about sex and self-love, and it is hilarious because it's Paul Rudd. And Jennifer Aniston does fantastically in it, and it was one of the first films I saw her as a comedy actress in. But yeah, it was when she
Oh no, Office Space,
so,
man. You've seen
yeah.
her the Office Space
Yeah,
with
but
our lanyards and our buttons.
but this one was really, it was just the way it was done. They made her very awkward with it, and it worked really well.
I guess when you've seen Jennifer Aniston being Rachel Green for so long, like it does take when I watch, well, we love Office Space, and when we watch it, it does take me a little time to adjust that. Oh fuck, that's Rachel Green. So I
yeah.
can understand that. Wow, how many films has she done with Paul Rudd? Because one of my favorites is Object of My Affection, with her and Paul Rudd, and
I
it's
would
where
say quite a few, maybe 3 or 4 films before.
oh wow, because Object of My Affection is just I love it. Paul Rudd's gay, she's straight, has a baby with someone who she doesn't particularly like, and they decide to go into co-parenting, and it doesn't work out that way. Feelings get to it's a beaut. I love that film. The Object of My Affection, that's what it's called.
I got it wrong. I want to
it.
correct myself. It wasn't Chromageddon, it was the Crowining 3. So the crows have eyes was what it was called.
The crows have eyes. Oh
So
my god.
yeah.
Oh, I loved it. Jenna
Did you-
Ortega. Oh, sorry, you were saying Rory.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was an unnecessary character in one way, but he was the huge thread that united Astrid and Delia,
Yeah.
because their love for hating him
hmm
brought them two together, which was
Yeah.
something that Delia never had with Lydia when Lydia was growing up, but she seemed to get that with Astrid.
Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega. I don't mind Jenna Ortega, but it is getting to the point where Jenna Ortega is just playing Jenna Ortega.
She's the same in every film I've seen her in so far.
It's getting that way. Like, don't get us wrong. I think because the aesthetic of that is, and I love her as a person. Did you see the press junket where someone told Winona Ryder to take her sunglasses off, and Winona being, this is what we do at these press junkets, and she went to go and take them off, and Jenna grabs her hand and goes, "Don't you take your sunglasses off? You don't need to take your sunglasses off. Leave them on. If you're comfortable, leave them on." And someone overheard her and said it was one of the most powerful things that she'd seen, because it's like Winona was just, oh, I'm my own person now. Like, I can do that.
She's from the era where you do as you're told.
Yeah. That's what Catherine O'Hara had to explain to the interviewer, because the interviewer had said, "This is so powerful." And Catherine's like, "Well, this is not that. We're not from that. We get told, look left, look right, look left, and we will look left, and we will do that." But she's the generation who will, yeah, she'll push it, she'll question it.
Yeah.
And she went, and even Winona said in that moment, she felt a little bit of strength when she put her sunglasses back on her eyes, because the sun was burning her retinas.
Going back to the useless character of whatever his name was, Wolf Jackson, that Willem Dafoe played. They originally approached Christopher Walken for that part.
I read that and I was like, is he still alive?
I don't know what the deal with that is. Did you see the other hark back to, there was a bit where there's when they're in a lineup and they're having their police photo taken, it's not a lineup, but in front of the board where you've got the height markers.
Yeah.
Section where they were in the police station, and the guy had the head out, and they were photographing just the head.
Yes.
And then he put it back on his body. That was a nod to the Corpse Bride. That was the waiter, the French waiter.
Oh my God.
It's exactly the head, the face, the tash, everything. Also, I feel like if you look at the way that Astrid is dressed, I know she's supposed to be Marie Curie, but they made her look like Victoria from the Corpse Bride. If you Google Victoria, the top knot, the high necked thing, she was very like almost in a bustle at the back. It was very much in that.
It was like a pale blue, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean the colours were wrong, but when you look at all the like the little
imagery.
Easter eggs, like the old guy that was talking and talking and talking, that was the barber outside the Maitland's shop when he goes in and he comes out, they put a skeleton in his place.
Yeah.
In the chair.
Shit, I didn't realise the cat was behind us.
But yeah, also the boyfriend, the dead ghost boyfriend, sussed it from the second she went through the fence and she met him.
No, it took me a little bit
Longer. It really took me. It took me until she went to the house and just something seemed off. And and then I realized, oh God, his parents aren't recognizing it because they're dead. Why aren't we seeing his dad? That was it. I was like, why aren't we seeing his dad? Why isn't his dad turned around? No one is that rude.
Yeah, he's from British royalty, Arthur Conti, who plays Jeremy. He is the grandson of Tom Conti, who's a massive actor, and his mother is Nina Conti, the comedian. So he is from a line of entertainment royalty in the UK, and he's British as well. But he got the receiving end of the F-bomb off of Beetlejuice in this one. So
Yes.
I can't remember what he says, something along the lines of get fucked or fuck yourself or something, and then he goes to hell. I can't remember what the exact word was, but there was a there.
For plot point though, to get her where they needed her to be, I didn't feel like that was a bad plot point. To be honest, I probably have to watch this again. I was meant to dip, but I didn't because I got really busy. But I felt plot wise, getting her to the underground would have been this whole train. Oh my God,
that was clever. I'll give him that.
There's a lot of fun aspects of and I wanted to stay more in the world of the dead than I did with the living. And the kicker of it all is that Delia Dietz is now dead
because she falls for a scam and gets bitten by two.
I could not stop laughing when she's got them fucking snakes in her hand.
She's doing the ritual over Charles's grave, and she's talking.
And then it goes.
And then when she wakes up, she's like, "No, no, no," and she starts to have a proper breakdown. And I was like, "Oh no!" And then when she's standing there, and she decides that she's not supposed to be there, and she knows what she has to do, and she doesn't want to do it, and she has to stand there, and she says, "Beetlejuice," and then she goes, "Ooh." She's like, oh. And then she does it again, and he like pops up and surprises everyone. I got the gist. And like she's like, I need your help to find my daughter, because obviously Astrid gets kidnapped. The gist of it is Astrid gets kidnapped. Well, she's falsely told that she can go and see her father in the afterlife, because her dad died on a trip to Brazil, and they never and that's why Lydia's character's so down in the dumps, because she lost her husband, even though they'd split up just before he died.
But he's not coming through. So the mother-daughter relationship is broken down because Lydia has come out. I'm trying my best not to mix the names up. Lydia has come out as a paranormal investigator, talker of the dead, has her own TV shows, made a bit of money from it. But the one person she can't get to come through is her husband and Astrid's father, and it has drove a wedge through the two because it's made Astrid think she's doing it for money. It's just she's an absolute charlatan. It took me a long time to realize that she is exactly like her mother. I was like, even after the whole reveal that he's dead and the whole plan, and I was like, oh shit, she can talk to the dead too. So she's been able to do it this whole time. Yeah,
so he falsely gets her to sort of agree to swap her soul for his, her life for his, under false pretenses and under the guise that she's going to go and see her dad. So they go into the underworld, whatever you want to call it, and you don't see them in the waiting room, if I remember rightly. Those two never really go.
They go to the ticket station, ready for the
great beyond. Yeah. And if for those of you that don't know, the Soul Train was a TV show in the 70s that was very much like our Top of the Pops, but they used to
dancing and
different songs and stuff like that. So the play on that was pretty cool because it was a really good idea, I think.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And the fact that everyone ignored everyone and they were just concentrating on the Soul Train.
And having a good time.
But do you think if Beetlejuice wasn't in this movie, it wouldn't have made any difference to the plot?
No. I think you needed him. He was the guiding force. He was the one who kept steering people in the right direction to get where they needed to go.
He's almost a good guy in this movie.
Oh, 100%. In this one, he is, he still loves Lydia. He still wants to marry Lydia.
And I think there's something there with Lydia as well.
It was the way she'd just given in. She was like, yeah, whatever, okay. Yeah, okie dokes.
Yeah. Well, what's the alternative? She marries the other guy.
Oh,
like,
Rory, yeah.
Exactly. If you were willing to marry Beetlejuice over him.
It was the way Rory proposed at her dad's funeral. That is when you knew. Well, I mean, to be fair, they do set him up to be a real wet lettuce up until that point.
It's funny, he talks about his granddad's death, and she's like, when did he die?
40 years ago.
It's the delivery. It's Justin's delivery of that.
The inner child in me still feels it like it was yesterday. But it's Delia in the back seat, and Delia goes, there's nothing but feminine energy in this family. And he sits there and he went, thank you. And
he's like, I beg your pardon.
I just like her little quips, and like every time like he goes to cuddle her or hug her, she's like, no, and I'm okay, thank you. And Delia's like not having none of it, you know. But it's the bit where they do the couples counselling, and it's exactly like he says everything Beetlejuice to that couple, to Lydia and to Rory when they're sat on the thing. He gets up from his chair and he goes, I can see there's a little bit of codependence here, and I can tell that there's an enabler here and all this sort of stuff. And he's proper like psychoanalyzing them straight away, and he's got it. So he's been watching her for a very, very long time, because when this opens, he's got his own business, a massive bioexorcist business, where he's got all of his little shrunken head dudes answering the phones. Bob. Justice for Bob.
Justice for Bob.
You've got Clive, you've got Dave, they've all got normal names. They've all got these little
Dan, I nearly burst into tears when he was hiding under that desk and you could hear him going. I was like,
well, here's something that'll blow your mind. The guy who played Clive played a Teletubby.
Shut up. Shut up.
He was the purple one. I never know which one was which, but he was the purple.
Lala, Dipsy.
Poe's red, I know that one. But like, yeah, it was one of those things when I read that, I was like, oh, for God's sake. But yeah, the majority of it was filmed in the UK, except for the scenes, the long shots of the Dietz's house. The Dietz's house was built in Connecticut in Winter River. There was a lot of issues with stealing when the film was being made, because somebody went and stole the big Delia statue, you know, the leaf with the hands.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing about that. I think for me, had there been a bit of exposition as to how Beetlejuice got from the waiting room at the end of the first one to owning his own bioexorcist business, when he was so disliked by everybody in the offices, it's like, well, how come did they give it back to him just to shut him up? But then they didn't want him doing any of that bioexorcisms, so it's like, why did they let him have his own business? Was it just, I don't, that bit I found
it's a bit, some of it's a bit up in the air for me at the moment, because I'm still trying to digest it. I'm still sitting there I have literally getting the hype of this film. Like, I went ridiculous, and I nearly wore my Beetlejuice jammers for this, but I'm so cold that I had to like pull the skeleton onesie out. You have no idea how thick this is. It's so thick. It's a man's one as well, so it's like got proper chunky like bottoms. I love it. Yeah, I went really hard on the hype for this, and I'm still riding that hype train. Like, I haven't quite gotten off yet, which is unusual for me, because as soon as a film comes out, I'm like Ghostbusters this year, I was very much, oh, it's done.
I know it sounds like I don't like this film, and that is not the case. I am grateful.
Oh yeah,
all the original people decided to sign up. I'm grateful Tim Burton insisted on directing it. I am grateful that they handled it in a way which was respectful to the original characters, and everybody stayed true to who they were. I'm grateful for the fact that they played lip service to the fans by giving us constant Easter eggs all the way through. Even if they weren't relevant to the original movie, they were relevant to the people, to the characters' previous experience and other stuff. I just feel like it was either highly edited, so they took out so much of stories to scale a film down that it left like the Monica Bellucci storyline going nowhere. It left the boyfriend a bit crap. Their dad was a bit weird. It just never, that certain things just didn't gel for me, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad film. I honestly think the more I watch it, the more I love it. Because I had this issue with Ready Player One. I listened to it on audiobook, and it's totally different in the audiobook, and I fell head over heels on it. But watching the film, I hated the film straight away.
I have had that book for nigh on 10 years. It was part of a Loot Crate exclusive, and it wasn't until the film, I put it to one side, I never even give it a second glance. And it wasn't until the film came out I went, why do I recognize that? Why do I recognize that name? Didn't even realize I owned the book.
Yeah, Ernest Cline did a fantastic job with the original book, and I, like I say, audio booked it. Will Wheaton read the whole thing.
Will Wheaton.
I absolutely loved it. But then when the film came out, I walked away from that initial movie and I went, what the fuck was that? Me and Rob were like, no, that's not Ready Player One, blah, blah, blah. Watched it the second time. Oh, it's not that bad.
Well.
Now it's our film. We absolutely adore the film. So that could be the case with this being for me. I think if you can watch it back to back, like you watch the first one and then watch the second one, I'm sure it will all fall
actually into that's a good idea. Did you know the one film that's had such a time between its original and a sequel was Hocus Pocus? I'm not gonna lie, I loved Hocus Pocus too. I just, do you know what, Dan? It was so fun. It was lovely to see them again, and it wasn't a terrible story. It had a great song in it, and I was like, that's all I needed. I'm happy. Like, I'm cool with that. I'm down for that. I don't know how I'm going to feel in a third one, but I was down for that.
I think, well, the thing is, again, it's going to be one of those things where I never watched them back to back. I just watched it the minute it came out. I watched it, and I was like you said about the Ghostbusters, that's done. That's done. So I feel like it's one of those things, again, the more you watch some of these films, I think the issue is nostalgia has become a big moneymaker in Hollywood.
Or has it just...
You jump on it or you miss your time, you know, and a lot of these guys are timing it fantastically, like Ghostbusters. You cannot tell me that they didn't time that perfectly. The whole thing with Hocus Pocus, like you say, now Beetlejuice, you know, there is an exact amount of timing that they are getting right at the moment, especially the merchandising deals.
Christ, yes. Jesus, I didn't think I'd own this amount of Beetlejuice merchandise.
Well, we're for the love of horror, we'll be selling Miss Argentina. We'll be selling, this is a bag. It's an over-the-shoulder body bag, the handbook for the recently deceased. This here is not a video cassette. It's got lanyards and patches and buttons and all sorts and stickers in it. So
I've just remembered when I clicked with us with a boyfriend when he had the book.
They're recently deceased, but
when he had the book, I went, "Oh my God, you're dead!" Yeah. That's why you have the book.
And the reason why they dressed him as James Dean, because they wanted to give him the Rebel Without a Cause thing. And in the movie Rebel Without a Cause, death followed him. He didn't seek it out. Whereas in this movie,
it's true to life as well when it comes to James Dean. Rebel without a clue. Shall we wrap Beetlejuice?
Yes.
Up? Beetlejuice 2, Beetlejuice, all the juices. There's a lot of Beetlejuice in tonight's episode. Thanks for sticking with us. Next week. Next week. Do you want to see it? Go on, say it. Well,
there's people and they live in a place called Under the Stairs.
That's right. We are doing Always Cravens. People Under the Stairs. if you can remember from conversations with ourselves last year, that episode, I talked of my love for this film. Love for this film. I know my friend Kelly, friend of the Nerdy Up North podcast, will be screaming her head off when she hears that we're going to be doing People Under the Stairs, because I know this is one of her favorite films of all time. It's a classic. It's Wes Craven. It's going to be interesting. Also, something that doesn't scare me because I don't have stairs.
I do, but all that's under them is my washing machine. So, I mean,
I live in a bungalow. So yes, next week is People Under the Stairs. Can't wait for that. Thanks everyone for sticking around and enjoying this episode. We are on you enjoying. I don't know if you enjoyed it. You might, or you might not have.
no, if you don't, I don't care.
No, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a good laugh. We got it back into the tangents. Oh. It sounded like you.
Why, I man?
No, I recorded the women's podcast this week, and I was telling them how the only thing you can say is what
and
what
lucky and spooky.
Oh,
Baker
God.
Grove.
Baker Grove.
Baker
I
Grove.
can't even say that as a Geordie. Baker Grove.
Baker Grove.
Well, we are on. Ooh, Baker Grove. I'm blinded, Van Dyck. I'm blind.
Knee bosh.
Knee bosh.
Knee bosh.
I got wrong off Ant for using that. He was like, "Don't you pinch my scenes?" I was like, "Hey, bitch, I've been
stuck
using
now.
it for a long time."
I use it a lot now.
I
I'm
know,
saying
I've
it to
noticed.
people. Knee bosh. And they're like, what?
I say it at work all the time, and people are just used to it now. It's my thing. We are on YouTube every Monday at 8 o'clock. Our audio and all audio for everything associated with Nerdy Up North is up on a Tuesday. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to never miss an episode. The links for Bleeding Marvelous, Monsters Up North, and Nerdy Up North are where, Dan? Down there. Down there. Actually, there's more. There, yeah, there.
I don't know where I sit when Paul puts us on the thingamajiggy.
I think I'm there and you're there. Or am I here and you're
All
there?
I know is I have all the comments going over my face like that quite a lot. So.
Oh, okay, so you're there and I'm there. Oh, well. Well, if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
The juice is loose.
Stay spooky, everyone. Bye.
Shut up!